How's it going, everyone? Welcome to my video. So this is going to be the second video in my middle game series, to where essentially I just give you certain positions. So far they've been from my games, but I give you certain positions and we go over the elements of the position and we try to come up with a plan as to how we should continue in those positions. And the goal out of this series is to give you practical tips that you can use in your games for when you're in the middle game and you're not sure what to do. So yeah, that's what we'll be working with. As always, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you on the other side. Alright guys, this is the position we will be looking at. This is white to play, and what do you think the evaluation is, and how would you approach this position? So I will give you a couple of seconds to think about that. And if you need more time, you're more than welcome to pause the video. So let's look at the four elements that we discussed in the previous video. So starting with material, we're up 4 points of material, and the exact distribution is that we have an extra bishop and an extra pawn. As we can count, there are 5 pawns, we have 5 pawns, and our opponent only has 4. So we're up 4 points of material, which is quite a bit. As far as king safety goes, their king is more open because there's only one kingside pawn remaining. I mean, their king's on h6. That's not a good sign, and there are more potential open lines towards the king. Whereas our king is safe optically because of the pawn placement. We have all 3 of our king safety pawns on the king side. However, our opponent does have ideas to try to attack the king side, like literally with like 19 points of material if their other rook gets into the game, so that could be a factor. As far as piece activity goes, I'd actually say that black is favored in that sense because they have all their pieces trying to do something. My pieces are pretty good. I mean, I have my queen and rook occupying the d file, a nice bishop as well, but ultimately I don't think that matters too much unless I can, make progress in this position. And pawn play, it's like equal. It doesn't even like matter in this position because there's a lot more, as we'll kind of discuss, there's a lot more to talk about in this position. So with that said, what I did, now the computer, okay, let me back up. First of all, the evaluation is +10, and I did give you a completely winning position to work on. You might think it's more instructive for me to give like a closer to equal position and then, just try to decipher how to play that. And, you may not necessarily be wrong. However, what I will say is that it can be very difficult to win these completely winning positions, especially in blitz, especially if your opponent's like pressuring you, like they're trying to do here. So while having a good position is good, it is important to be efficient with it. So what I realized during the game, the best way to make progress is I needed to exploit the fact that their king was weak. That's what I realized. I will say for the record, the engine recommendation is to play g3, and it's just weird because if black just does something like this, I can't even take the rook because queen g4 is a perpetual. I would go to the h-file and they just go back and forth. Queen on the h-file, then queen g4. So saying after queen h3, I should just play something like rook fe1, which it seems a little bit strange to recommend g3 if I'm not even going to take the rook, but neither here nor there. What I realize is that I need to get pieces towards the king. So the first move I played was queen d7. Queen d7 is a great move because it cuts off the 7th rank, which means that if the king ever has to escape, it can't go back. It can't go back to like its starting position. Well, I guess the bishop's occupying that, but it can't really go back to where it belongs, which means that if I ever harass the king, it has to go forward. And that benefits me for attacking purposes. Now, after queen d7, black played rook 8 f5, which is productive. They're trying to go like rook g5 and just like get some pressure going. So after rook 8 to f5, what I realized is that, well, I actually planned this, before playing queen d7, but my queen can't do all the work, like there's just nothing for me to do. in order to have a successful attack, you need multiple pieces to be working together. So what I did was I played queen takes a7, which it does take another pawn, but way more importantly, it now opens up the rook for me to bring my rook in, and rook h7 threat, and my opponent is pretty much toast. That's the idea. That was the whole idea behind my previous couple of moves. I played queen d7, getting the queen in. 2 moves later, I have the rook into the game. And now, in this position, my opponent did sack on g2, and I did get nervous, like, uh-oh, did I blunder something? And it is something, like, in your games, you do want to check for these things, and just, like, you want to check for these sacrifices, just calculate them, just make sure they don't work. Obviously, this is a blitz game, so I could cut myself a little bit of slack, but after king h2, my opponent has absolutely no good checks. I mean, they're legal checks, just lose material. And so my opponent played queen e2. There's just nothing better to do. Then I played rook h7, and I hunted the king down. I played queen e7, he played king f5, and it was a time scramble, as you can see from the time log. After king e4, I played queen b7, and actually in this position, I missed a checkmate in 1 turn, so if you want to find it yourself, feel free to pause. And if you're back from finding it, the move here is just queen d5, and it's just a mate in 1. As the queen is protected by the bishop, the pawn, my arrows are off today. The pawns take some squares, and, the king just has nowhere to go. But neither here nor there, I played rook d1 check, which is also a good move. My opponent just sacked here. Once again, queen d5 is just mate in 1, but I just took the queen, and then ultimately I just, flagged my opponent. It's completely winning. I just sacrificed some material, just got a winning position. Ultimately, I just got queen and king versus king, and I am able to win that.